Now, in terms of the factors of production, let me see if I put that up here. No, I didn't. So let's go back here. In terms of the factor of production, so again, normally what we see would be land. Okay? We would see labor. And then we would see capital. You didn't like me. Capital. Okay? Land, labor, and capital. There is a debate, particularly from managerial side of from the management side of academics, to include a fourth factor of production called entrepreneurship. Those of us to some extent are purists, argue that entrepreneurship is just a specialized form of labor and there is no particular need to add the fourth one rather. However, in my case, having worked in a corporation where I actually worked for a true entrepreneur, I'm more inclined to argue that putting the fourth one in there, entrepreneurship, it probably has some value. And because again, I see from my own practical experience in the world of business that managers and entrepreneurs are not the same kind of person. They're different skills. And so I am open indeed to putting that fourth factor of production in here. Now, you can clearly see if we sort of go back to the question here, wouldn't it be nice to know if I change my labor input, what's the impact on output? If I change my capital input, what's the impact on output? And so that notion then is what we call the marginal productivity. It's just the change of the input. So notice the cause and effect, and it's really, goes from down here to up here. All right? I'm getting some odd things. Must be my collar. So at any rate, marginal product. For those of you that have had a stronger math background, this is simply the first derivative. The average product, on the other hand, is just the relationship between total output and the input. So again, remember the cause and effect is going this way. All right? Average product and marginal product. Obviously, were marginal product, it's these relationships between having the average product increase or having the marginal product be greater than zero but not negative. We'll come back to those in a moment. Just obviously across the top of your head, you can now begin to see how that matters. I certainly wouldn't want to use a factor of production where its marginal productivity was negative. Okay? All right, now we can see that graph, so let's just take a look at it real quickly. This would be the relationship between total product and output. All right? So this is quantity, total product and output. Notice it rises, reaches a peak, and then declines. Now what's interesting about this, so just so you know, what I'm saying here is that this is an idealized relationship, okay? It's an idealized relationship. Now, take a look at the bottom part of our graph. Notice what we're seeing. Here is the marginal product. You can see what's happening. The marginal product is rising. The marginal product rises, reaches a peak, and then it falls. And notice over here, okay? Over here, this is a real interesting point because beyond using 7 units of this input, okay, the marginal product actually becomes negative. So that's important. Notice this is the peak of marginal product. This is the peak of average product here, all right? So that is an important position, all right? So average product is sort of doing something like that, and then marginal product is doing something like that, all right? Now, if marginal product is less than average product, then average product is falling. You can see that. And then when marginal product and average product equal, average product is at a maximum. Okay, and that's this point right here. All right. So in terms of sort of managerial decision making, that matters to us in terms of thinking about the efficient usage of our inputs. Okay. The law of diminishing returns is just a technical relationship, and basically what it says is that as you take a fixed input, your plant, and you continue to add variable inputs to that fixed input, labor, then at some point output starts to decline, okay? Pretty straightforward definition, okay? There are 3 stages of production, okay? Stage 1, and that's from 0 units of the variable input to where average product is maximized. That's that point we saw where average product and marginal product were the same. Now notice what's happening in that stage. Marginal product is rising positive, and so is average product. Stage 2 is from that little point where average product was a maximum and marginal product was 0. And then stage 3 was that interesting little point where marginal product was 0. So anything beyond stage 3, marginal product is negative. Notice stage 1 doesn't make sense because what you're seeing is marginal product and average product are rising, so it would make more sense to continue to add output, produce more. Stage 2 is then the area of what we call efficient production. Now, so again, in the short run, firms produce in stage 2. Why not stage 3? Because you can see marginal product is negative. Why not stage 1? Well, then we're underutilizing our fixed resource. We don't have enough labor for our plant and equipment. So the question is then where in stage 2 are we going to produce? Okay? Well, that depends on how many units of output the firm can sell, and then monetary costs of employing variable input. So from a management point of view, what have we just sort of over here? When you begin to see that the marginal productivity of a factor of production that you are using relative to fixed plant and equipment, as that starts to decline and approaches 0, that's a warning level for you to pay attention, okay? And certainly to try to use that variable factor of production with a fixed plant and equipment where in fact marginal productivity is negative, it makes absolutely no sense. The whole stage 1 issue is, again, I've got a fixed plant and equipment, but I don't have enough variable factors of production to make the cost of using that fixed plant and equipment go up. Now we're going to see, why is this important? We're going to see that when we get into profit maximizing and demand planning and all of that later on in our time together, that this question is important. Why? The size of my plant relative to the size of the market matters. It is telling me that if I have market growth, but I have a limited plant and equipment, okay, then I'm going to have cost questions. And it's going to raise the issue of I need to constantly being able to be sure, okay, be able to be sure of estimating changes in the size of the market. That was demand. And remember at the very beginning we talked about, am I moving along the demand schedule or has the demand schedule moved out? Now you're beginning to see why this matters. One of the reasons it matters is if indeed the market has gotten bigger and the demand curve has moved out, then there is no doubt that no matter how efficiently you combine inputs, okay, in stage 2, your plant is too small for the size of the market. Okay? Your plant is simply too small for the size of the market. So this matters a great deal.